Okay, so back with this Japanese contemporary Strat from the probably late 80s, 85, 87, something like that, I don't know. Anyway, so one of the things that I ran into was, first of all, I had the neck refretted, and the guy, I've worked with this guy for a long time, he does fantastic work. But I did have him put some taller frets on it, and one of the things, it was okay when I first got it back, but pretty quickly, or maybe I didn't notice it when we first got it back, the B string was buzzing on the first fret, and it was definitely not any problem with the frets that he put in. It went away as soon as I went above the first fret, which usually means the nut slot's a little bit too deep. And in fact, what's crazy is that if you actually take a look at the nut, and so if you take a look at the nut, you can actually see that the B string, the slot for the B string, is quite a bit lower than the slot for the thinnest E string, which doesn't really make sense. So I thought, well, okay, how hard could it be to replace a nut? I've dressed them before. I've cut new ones before. I didn't really feel like doing that this time, so I figured I'd just go online and just buy a pre-cut Fender nut. Well, the problem is a couple of things. One, Fender contemporary Strats have a 12-inch radius, and that's a considerably larger, like a lot of Strats will have like a 9 and some odd quarters, I don't know, 1/4 or 3/4 something, and I think there was like a 10 and maybe something radius that Fender was using. 12 inches is pretty flat, flatter than most Fenders. So it's hard to find a 12-inch Strat style nut to begin with. They can be had, but the other problem with this particular nut is how tall it is, and you can see, if I can measure this pretty okay here, you can kind of see that this. Let's make sure this is zeroed out. There we go. Close enough. Okay, so the nut is kind of too wide because of the arch. I can't quite get it in there to where it's actually measuring it. So it's a little bit tall. It's going to be a little bit taller than that. Probably something like 6 millimeters, maybe a little over 6 millimeters. And I would rather have something that was a little bit over, so I've got something to work with in case I have to take something off. So yeah, it's definitely at least 6 millimeters tall. Well, that's really tall. Most Fender nuts are not going to be that tall. Thankfully, the thickness, which I'm going to switch over to inches for that, 0.123, 0.125, right? That's pretty typical for a Fender nut, so at least I don't have to do any shaving that way. But I am going to have to, I did get one that had had a curve up here. Now, I don't know that it's 12 inches or not. I'll have to wait to see when I get it. I couldn't find it on Graphtech's website, but I'm going to have to cut the bottom. It's a flat bottom saddle, or nut rather. So I'll have to put this one on there, trace it, and sand down the other one, or cut down the other nut, and then cut my own slots, which at least I've got the slot spacing on this one. So I can use this as a template to at least kind of get in the ballpark, and then go and start cutting the new slots. But this is the more I look at it, the more I realize this is actually probably not the original nut. There's some unevenness right through here. You can kind of see that the radius here isn't quite constant. It almost kind of like, it's a little bit tighter through the middle right here, and a little bit straighter right through here. So and then on this side, you can kind of see it's also not perfectly, if you look at it this way, it's also kind of almost got like a twist to it, which is the nut's, or the saddle's not, or yeah, the nut's not twisted, but it was probably just whoever put this in there just had a little bit of a slope to it, and the top slope to that's pretty normal. So anyway, new nut is supposed to show up, I think, Tuesday or Wednesday. It's a few days from now. Today's Saturday, so I'll have to wait till it shows up, and then I guess I'll be cutting a new nut.